might as well let Tim take over from this point. If you want to go ahead, Tim, and do your thing.
Well, we will try, Wade. We will try.
He'll be fine.
Well, we'll see. Can anybody see what I'm doing at all? Now?
There it
Yes.
goes.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
no, I can.
Okay. So you guys got your map that we had. Manhole 140 is on Market Street and goes east back towards Granville Street. Everybody see that?
And you're
On
talking
the map that I sent out.
Yeah.
On the
The
Like-
map that's got the map that I give you, Mike. See, manhole 140 is right across from the Griley house. It's right out in the street there, and it goes east towards Gordon Street.
Can you get to the map on your screen, Tim, or not? Oh, this is good. Go ahead.
Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to jump along instead of all this stuff here, this mumbo jumbo, but I'm going to go to where we know we have problems. And the first one starts at about 14 feet. I hit that pretty good. As you guys can see this
Yes, you
tile
did.
here. This tile has got like 4 long cracks going through it. Not a whole lot keeping that together. And this is, like I say, if you look down here, it's 14 foot east of manhole 140. This is underneath of Market Street.
So Wade, this is headed towards our homes.
Right.
Yeah. And the next 3 feet of this is not very good. So I can maybe try to jump it a little bit because it's going to be, they take a minute to type up stuff, what they're doing. And okay, this is a little better look of the cracks that are in here. With this being the bottom here, you can see where the flow line has been on this. We're not much further here, but it just gives you a good idea of what we're looking at and how bad this pipe is failing underneath of the street. This thing is just, as you can see, I'm just barely clicking through. You, that's dirt on the backside there. So
Yeah. Keep in mind with almost every crack you see, that's I basically making its way in during rain events and saturated ground. So that's a I issue along with, the issue of the actual structure itself.
So what you're saying is right now, if we had a camera down there with 4 feet of melting snow, the water would be flowing pretty good.
Yeah, I would say it would be based off of our flows and stuff right now. Yeah, they're moving.
okay, our next one is at 32 feet here. See how good I get here. Oh man. Never thought I'd do it this good, Terry. Let's see, here we go.
Yeah, good.
That
Practice
is a
makes
tap.
perfect.
The fourth
Factory
time
made
you
tap.
practiced this?
Yeah.
No, I'm just guessing. If I could get back a little bit, it'll come up on this tap. This camera comes up and this tap's up here on the right-hand side.
Right there.
Now, they call this a factory tap. I do not, because this tap sticks out. It is concreted in at the top, and I call this a hammer tap. They kind of missed the ball on this, but it's what it is. But right after this, there was, and if you've seen it, there is this crack that goes all the way around the pipe just after this tap. It's they call it like a 12 to 12. It's a complete circumference.
The first crack that Tim showed you, once the full length is a 4 foot of pipe, long wise, this crack goes around it like a halo,
Right.
the circumference, so.
Now we'll see how good I am. Now the next one's 77 feet. Let's take a stab at this and see where I'm at. Ooh,
No.
Look at that.
I'm telling you, it's good to be lucky once in a while. I can tell you that. This is the same thing. This is like a crack all the way around. Same thing, like I say. So we've had an issue 14 foot to 17 foot out of that manhole going east. And then there was one at 32 foot and then at 77 feet. And once again, we're going to get up here about 161 feet, I'm going to guess. And no, oh man, I'm way too far.
Oops.
Still too far. Say 161. I got to get back a little bit. So most of this pipe doesn't look too bad, but we've got all these spots in it. And this pipe here is probably the better pipe we have. When we get going up the alley towards the church, you're going to find out how bad it is. Now, this is what they're talking about right up here. This pipe is coming apart. And I know it's a small spot, but this is not going to get any better. If that's starting to pop off, which they call spalling, that's going to continue to happen. If you look in your pictures, the last 4 pictures, I think the 4th one from the bottom, you'll see cracks and spalling like crazy. That was over on Maple Street that we relined at. And this pipe's going to do the same thing. It's destined to fail. Okay. Yep, one more, and just give you an idea of the offset joint. And I went too far. And maybe just a little bit here. Come on. I think you can see what we're talking about up here. This joint up here is dropped down considerably from the others. Now, when you reline this, you can't fix that, but you can make an awful smooth transition.
So, Tim, let me ask right there, is that where they've tried where it falls down, where it's some sort of sealant or something?
That's,
Or is that,
Mayor,
is that
these are 4
that
foot
just-
sections, and they're a bell and spigot tiles, what they are. And they had tar in them to begin with. So
okay,
what it appears is the one that's like ahead of the video, the downhill side of that has dropped and made that separate, you know, when that got laid. So
and so that's
yeah,
just the tar we're seeing.
yes, yeah. And yeah, it just tells you that is gapped well, that's a fair amount. That's probably close to an inch at the top. So. Now, if I get out of this screen, I will get to stuff that's more interesting because this was basically the last of this.
Yeah. The next video is the really eye-opening one, at least from my perspective.
there's
what I thought.
Let's see. Let's go. I want to go. Let's go from 140 to 141. So we're going to go from Market Street and we're going to go north up the alley. Is that an Apostolic Church up there? Is that what that is? Does anybody know?
I'm not sure what it is these
The one at
days.
the corner of Granville and Mulberry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now this thing here, this is where we run into a train wreck of stuff. I need to get to about 30 feet. And we're still not getting going there. So this is going north and we're underneath the Market Street right now, is what we are. And the first thing we're going to have is a 12 to 12 crack right here ahead of the joint. And I know this is still on Market Street here.
And the 12 to 12, just in case someone watching or listening doesn't know, is a crack that goes all the way around.
Correct. Correct. And the next thing we're going to come up on is going to be a tap that, once we get away from this. Okay, here's a tap, a factory-made tap that is capped. It was never used. And that is headed back towards 158 there, Main Street. So that would be like a 10 o'clock position. So we get up here 37 feet. And you're going to see how this thing's going to turn into a train wreck right here. Now, I don't know if I could back that up a little bit. I think it's in your picture. Well, we took pictures of this, right, Terry? This one here. Hello, Terry.
Sorry, yeah, you're correct.
Okay,
You're correct.
This one here. This is the gravel. Well, they keep getting away from that, but it's the gravel. When the pipe was bedded, they laid gravel down and then put the pipe down. That's the bedding of the when they put the pipe in. When you can see that gravel right there. Now, anybody knows anything about a French drain, water will run through gravel. Water's going to come right through these cracks, and it's going to come right into our system.
Now, so at 38 feet, Tim, we're out of the middle of Market Street, and we're
We're
in the alley at this point.
Probably just about south of, we're probably just at the edge of the curb, I would say, on the north side of the road. And you can see this looks worse and worse as we go.
Tim, that one offset there, is that where like a bell's cracked off or something?
Well, you mean, well, I didn't see which one you was talking about, Mike. Let me back up just a tick here. Here? Is that what you were saying?
I think that's the one.
Well,
There's an offset where sections connect.
well, that's a joint. Now this is a roundy round crack plus the cracks running through. Because the next joint's clear up here, Mike.
No. All
So
right.
this section of pipe here is like in serious peril of going south on us. It's got those longitudinal cracks and circumference crack.
Is that the one where you're showing with the cracks right in the top of the pipe?
Hmm. Oh, well, yeah. Well, let's just. Okay, one more time here. We're still not even out of here because you can just see what kind of mess that is now. Get on up here. That's where you guys have a picture of all the tree roots coming in.
Yeah. All those tree roots in there. I don't know why you haven't had a major backup.
Well, I think we had enough of one.
Oh.
There you go. Now this tap you see right here, the corner house on North Park Street and the house that is just west of the alley, sits along the alley, the gray house, those two come into that tap. I can tell you that. I know the camera did not go past here. I can tell you that. So we had to get up on the other end, up behind the church, and we dropped into that manhole. So now you can see how big that root is there. That's got a little bit of size to it coming in. But if I go back to, all right, now we're going to do the reverse one if I can find it. Okay. So now we're going to come from up there in the alley. We're going to come downstream to get to where we couldn't come upstream any further. And it's not too bad a shape. I think 97 feet might be our first problem. There's another factory tap that's not used there. Yeah, might as well leave it run at this point. It'll be there before we know it.
So on the plus side, at least right here, the pipe doesn't look too bad.
No. And if you guys notice this camera, like after it crosses a joint and drops down, there's a bit of an offset in there when it does that. If you see the camera head drop down. And you're right, Mayor. It's not too bad here, but I mean, you get on down in here, the rest of it's outgoing.
I was gonna say, I know what's coming up, but
Mm-hmm.
at least right there, it looked okay.
Mm-hmm.
When were these pipes laid down?
Most of this main, Wade, was now, this looks like there's some little longitudinal cracks here. Yeah. Most of this, all the main was put in 59 and 60. Now we've cambered a lot of sewer, looking around I&I and different problems. We've seen a few cracks, but nothing like this.
No.
All right. Wade hasn't asked the follow-up to when it was put down, so I'll ask it. You know it's coming. They were put down in 59 and 60. What's the average life expectancy of this clay tile?
Terry, what did you find out?
30 to 50 years.
30 to 50 years, so
It's a
19
useful life.
so 1990 to 2010 is when the useful life period for these lines hit.
Pretty close.
So
Yep.
like just kind of like the water lines, we're not as far behind as the water
No,
lines, but
not-
we're 10 years behind the ball.
Not near as far. We're in a whole lot better
Right.
shape here by far.
Yes. But it is something we definitely have to start planning for.
Let's see. My next thing I think I got comes up about leave this run a little bit. This looks like an offset joint right here. We should see the camera do a little bump here if he doesn't stop much.
Right.
Because that water shouldn't be backing up there.
What's the diameter of these pipes?
8 inch.
So this is what I'm going to do, Tim. I'm going to be your alarm clock. So because I want you to talk through the last 4 pages of the snapshots that we sent out.
That's
So
fine.
they can so right now you're at almost 6:30. We have about 15 minutes left for service. So
Okay. Here's what we're going to tell you right here. This is a hammer tap here. What a hammer tap means is when someone went to tap this main, they took a hammer and basically broke a hole and slipped their pipe in and tried to seal it up the best they could. Now, the worst thing about this is here's this, and 5 feet away is a factory made tap that they could have tied onto and they didn't do it. So
Now it's getting to the interesting part.
yep, let's go. Here comes the factory tap that we should now see. That camera is stuck on that hammer tap there. He was hanging up on that a little bit. That's deposits up there on the left that will have to be cleaned. That's what they're looking at there. So let's just jump on by these guys. Now this was solid roots right here. And then the reason this is split is when we run our jet truck up through here with the jet hose, and that busted through that, which gave relief to the problem we was having. The problem is after you get through this, because this is just like fine roots here. Then we get on the other side, and this thing is cracked down the length again, as you can see. And then we come up on this. which, you remember the big tree roots that we were looking at on the other side of this? There's about 15 foot from what's coming up here from this to the other tree roots that we did not see because we couldn't get through. But yeah, there's just a small hole where the jet hose come through that mess there. So
That's the plug, Mr. Hamilton, you were asking about, if there was a backup.
yeah,
This is
there you
it.
go. There you go, Mike. So that is basically the problems that we have in this line. There's 915 feet that we'd like to reline. Okay, now I got to get back to my email, Terry. So please, everyone, bear with me.
You're doing good.
Okay.
I'm sorry, if I can ask, it's Brandy McCreary.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at that shot that we just saw, I know that I'm late coming in and I apologize, but was that a mineral deposit that I was seeing?
No, that was all tree roots.
That's all tree roots.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Tree roots and toilet paper.
Did you come in ahead enough to see the tree roots on the other side of that line?
I did.
Okay.
I
So I can
just-
say there was about 20 foot in between that. That's what I
I
can tell you.
just couldn't imagine if that was like a tree root or deposit or someone put a meatloaf in there. I'm like, holy cow, that's awful. Okay. All right then. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim,
Okay. Yes.
before you reline that, you run a cutter or anything through there to clear all that out and
Yes.
flush it out?
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah. That's part of the deal there. Okay, Terry, I got to find our pictures we did.
Excuse me, which street are we looking at?
Okay, what you were just looking at was the line that runs from Market Street almost up to Mulberry in the alley there, across from the Griley house.
Okay.
It's between Gordon and Park, but it runs up that alley.
Okay.
And
Kind
that
of where that.
services Park Street and Granville Street sewer.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have your map, Brandy?
Yes, I have everything here. I know where that is.
Okay,
That's
so
also
it'd be,
near where that
we were
gas
looking
leak-
at between 140 and 141,
Okay. All
both directions there.
right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right, where we go with these, Terry? Where'd you hide them at?
Okay, I'm looking here.
They aren't that far back, Tim.
No, they're not, because they can't be, because we did them that day.
That'd be Wednesday, because we met on
Wednesday,
it
you
on
think?
Wednesday.
Okay, well, we did them Wednesday, and I believe Terry sent them
Yeah,
to me
so
that
go-
day.
Okay, Tim, go into
Yep.
the share drive, go into your share folder,
Okay, yeah,
go to 2021 Service Committee,
okay.
and then go to Work Prep.
Well, let me find, what do we got? I just got purchase order requests here. I'm not,
Now, 2021 Service Committee, so
I know. But when I went to the shared, well, I know why.
Shared-
Hang on.
okay.
Because I got to connect. My bad.
Okay.
You guys got to know, I'm really technically challenged.
You are
So-
You're
doing
doing
very
fine,
good.
Tim.
Yes,
You're doing
you are.
fine.
Okay, now I can get down here.
Not down at the beginning of it, where it says 2021 Service Committee, it's where
Yeah,
the
it's right
council
here.
is.
Yeah. And then
All
we're
right,
looking
then-
at work prep, right?
Work Prep,
Okay.
and then photos of video.
I thought I had them on an email. I guess I didn't.
That's all right, we got it. This will take a bit to load up because it's a big file. Say okay.
Okay, I did. There it
It's
goes.
coming.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So this is the stuff we looked at before. So it just
Mhm.
tells you where you're at between what manholes, you know, the footage and what's actually going on. That's this 12 to 12 crack that's clear around. So
Mhm.
this was upstream. This is 27 feet off the manhole. We're underneath the Market Street. And this is the one that was 38 feet that we looked at. And this is the one that we could see the gravel in that the pipe was bedded in back in the day. So this thing's got major issues. There's your tree roots again, Mike, that we were looking at. And that's going upstream towards church. And then this is coming backwards. This is 95 feet when we're looking at those 4 cracks that are on this pipe. Offset joint here. That's that hammer tap I showed you. And Mike, this here will have to be, we'll run our root cutter up through here and it will cut that clay back because it'll have to get cut back in order for them to, their liner will stick out a little bit there, but they'll need to be able to get their machine through and that won't allow that. And that's the other roots we've seen. And then Brandy's mess that she liked there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, and then like I say, this is going right down Market Street, heading towards the mayor's house, going east. Yeah, that pipe is bad. And what you guys need to understand, if this loses its shape, it is not a candidate to be relined.
Great.
We got a price for over $80 a foot to dig it up and put it back in. That didn't count pavement. And Terry, what I email you on that price for the reline? 30 a foot?
It's 30 a foot, correct.
Yeah, $30
So 80 a foot if we have to put in new, 30 a foot if we reline. And understand, because this is on East Market Street, remember what we had there this summer? Remember all the semi trucks that run it over it? So every time these cracks start, we get some vibration,
And
which
So
is not a friend.
just so everyone, so Tim, if this is relined though, does that help the pipe keep its shape?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
We relined it, and I know Chuck would know, but from Granville Street clear down through the creek, we have a collector tile that picks up Rome side. And I mean, that tile picks up the majority of the town, other than clear out where the southeast lift station is around the Marathon Station in Dorchester and that. That thing, we relined that. That's a 15-inch tile. And I mean, it was a mess. And we rehabbed the manholes. And we were told then that if the clay pipe broke off, this fiberglass liner will stay in place and guaranteed for 50 years. And the pictures.
So relining it is almost the same as replacing it, just cheaper.
Way cheaper. Yeah, and no mess. No mess at all. So, like you see that, like I say, you can seal that up and you can make a smoother transition because these pipes here,
Okay, this is it.
this was on, like I say, on Maple Street, and it's an alley that runs behind Maple between Basel and High Street. And you see all the spalling, all these cracks. And I mean, you guys, I could give anybody the video to look at the before and after, but it's amazing. So we took snapshots right here, 36.3 feet. And this snapshot is 36.1, so it's right there. This is a new liner. You don't see any of the spalling, any of the cracks, they're all gone. And then when you get here, someone had cut in a plastic tap. They put in a tap, and there's a rubber boot that goes around here. And that's why there's such an offset in the pipe. Okay. And like I say, that's before and that's after. So those offset joints may not be perfect, but they sure are a smooth transition for it to go through, you know? So it's nothing more than like putting a big sock through. The residents will be without their sewer use for probably 10 to 12 hours. I'm just going to say when each section is done, and that will affect all the taps. And I believe there's, what did we count, Brad? 17?
17, 18,
17.
something like
At
that.
the most. So 17 homes are going to be affected, but it won't all be the same day, but it's going to be a couple days in a row that they need to understand that. So, but that's
Okay.
basically it. I mean,
Yeah, also keep in mind with this also it's saving the structure of the pipe and the life of the pipe, but also with I know Brandy came in a little bit late, but with all the cracks and roots you saw, that's I getting through. That's unwanted water that we are treating. And also with our projects for I and the EPA is concerned, this is a big deal for us to do this, and it will help us obviously in the long run, and this is the kind of stuff that they want to see. So, so it's kind of fixing the structure. It's cheaper, and also processing unwanted water. We don't have to also do that. So,
Okay,
anybody have any questions?
How many, 900 and how many feet? 900?
915, Wade.
Thanks.
And as far as if you want to know about traffic control, they can set up there in front of the Griley house. And I believe we can put up no parking and take cones and make 2 lanes there. I think it's wide enough to do that. And it shouldn't hold up anybody's, traveling going through there. So it should be pretty easy.
So we're looking at budgeting around 30 grand for that then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're saying between 30 and 35 because you always have surprises.
Right.
So Tim did get 2 bids, one from Inside Pipe Contracting and one from Vizu Sewer, who used to be Dryer Mallard. And they are itemized. So as soon as we can look at and compare apples to apples, then we don't always necessarily take the lowest, but that's what we shoot for, but we take the best. So what services they can offer. So Tim did his due diligence and went out and got 2 bids.
Okay.
Fine.
Sounds like something we need to do pretty quick though.
I think the sooner the better. I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions.
I was gonna say, Terry, do you need anything from service to get started on that?
No, I don't believe
Okay.
so. I just wanted first of all, of course, their blessing. As you can see, it is an issue. It's one of those, we can make the best plans in the world, but all of these things are going to pop up. And, we did a lot of stuff looking at I&I, and we've looked at other areas in I&I, and my question to Brad and Tim was, compared to the others that we have cameraed, how do you compare this? And both of them agree that this is what?
It's the worst we've seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got the right area that we need to get working in. So, yeah.
Is it
I
the
think
worst
we're
in
good.
town? We have no idea, but it's the worst we've seen, what we've cameraed. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. What we can. And the camera is not cheap. to have this area cameraed. It was like, what is it, Tim? $800 for their
Mhm,
trip
yes.
out
Yeah,
to do it. So that is something we're also pursuing. Since, to Brad's point, these are good areas to help us focus on I&I. So maybe it may behoove us to buy a camera. So we are looking into that possibility too. So more to come on that. So I think, Mr. Cosgrave, you have your quorum.
Okay.
You have your
so-
quorum, and it's just about time to start your safety meeting as well. So,
Well, I think Mr. Cosgrave needs to get minutes approved.
yep.
So,
Can I ask how much of town has been recorded using this type of camera? What are we looking at?
Oh,
Oh, how much have we done?
Yeah, I'm just curious, and I'm sure has it been random?
I don't
or-
know that I have an answer for that. I mean, when we have an issue, we'll call them in to do that.
Okay.
But I don't think I could really tell you. I know when we were doing smoke testing,
Mhm.
we spent a fair amount of money there, Terry, if you remember right.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
So, but
The
Yeah,
camera,
it's-
Brandy, when they come back with the price, isn't necessarily cheap,
Right.
but I think we should buy one.
No, I
because
think so.
we're
I
going,
think looking at the
we're going to need more.
infrastructure aging, I think it would be a wise investment.
it'd be easy for us to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like
I need to
we
get
were,
the minutes of the previous meeting approved. So
I so moved to approve those minutes. I read over them.
second. So I'd read through them. I didn't see anything.
No, I
anything.
didn't either.
So we got the meeting minutes of the previous meeting approved. So we pretty much need to adjourn about right now, don't we?
To get to safety. Yeah.
Yep.
And thank you, Brad, for joining us. And you can stick if you want. Tim, if you want to stick and give your input on safety and the snow removal, you are welcome to do so.
okay.
I'm gonna
But if
hop
you're
off
sticking
here.
around,
Keep
Thanks,
these
Brad.
kids. Thank you, guys.
thanks,
All right.
There you
Brad.
go. Go take care of your daughter.
So I guess we'll adjourn at 6:45.
All right. Well, it switches over to safety. Good job, Tim.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Brad,
And Brad,
we're a team.
That was great.
they're a team.
Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. It's 6:46. We'll go ahead and start our safety committee meeting. Roll call.
Hankinson,
Present.
Hamilton,
He's present. He's on mute.
okay,
He's here.
he's there. Okay, McCreary,
Here.
I got it.
Okay. Also in attendance, we have the mayor and VA. Is the police chief there?
Chief's on.
I am.
Okay. And Brian?
Yep, he's on here.
Yep.
Okay. Who else is on there? I didn't
Rick,
keep track of everybody.
there's a phone number there that I don't see an identification with.
Oh, that's Mr. Hankinson.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Foreman's on, Mr. Hankinson.
Yep.
Okay.
And Tim is still on. I asked him to stay.
Okay. I guess those will be our visitors. So, okay, approval of minutes from January 25th. I looked over them. I didn't see anything.
I'll second that. I didn't see anything either.
Okay, so I made the motion and it was seconded by Brandy.
Yes.
Yep.
Any other? All right, roll call.
Hankinson,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
All right. Do any of our visitors have any comments? Okay. We're good at goals. 0 workplace accidents. That's going
We're
okay,
there.
Terry?
Yes,
All right. The repair missing and worn traffic signs. How's that going?
I'd like to talk to that. If you
Okay.
remember, last year, we received a BWC refund, and Brian had allocated how much should go to each fund or department, and we wanted to spend it on safety because that's what the original payment was for. In the streets, Tim had a substantial number of amount of money. One of the things that I have noticed, and I'm sure some of you also have noticed, is that our street signs in town, sometimes it says you're on Washington, but you're not really on Washington because they've been flipped around. They're older, the reflectivity is not what it should be. So Tim got a bid for some new street signs. We have 244 street signs in the village. So for his portion of the BWC refund, which is around just a little over 13,000, we're proposing that we buy new street signs throughout the village. Now, what this would also include will be the poles. And Tim, do you want to explain those poles, your new ones versus your old ones?
They're a U-channel versus like those round posts they put in with the old ones. So no one's going to be able to turn those like the kids do all the time. So actually, they're the same thing we put stop signs on. So just to give you an idea.
So that way, if we have an emergency people in the village or whatever, our street signs will be on the correct streets instead of them going down the wrong streets, even though I know we have GIS. So the question then becomes, we have an option. The option is the color of the street sign. We have kicked around, right now they're green with white letters. You can get white with green letters, or my favorite, white with black letters. And the nice thing about these street signs is they all fall within the required reflectivity that all signs are supposed to have. So I don't know if anyone feels very strongly about it, but I would like to see us get white signs with black letters because they tend to stick out better. Chief, do you have a preference?
Not really. As long as they're reflective and meet the standards, I think we're fine.
Okay. And if nobody else does, then if I would then say that we will probably go ahead and order those street signs unless somebody objects.
It sounds okay to me.
Is there a cost difference between the white and black and green and white?
No,
Okay.
they're all the same price. So,
Sounds good to
okay,
me. I support
good.
that.
I think it will be a good addition. It's a visual that everybody, residents can see that we are, doing improvements throughout the village, and I think it'll be a good visual. So that's my report on the signage, Mr. Hankinson.
Okay, sounds good. Then the next one was the 0 fatal accidents. We're good there. And they identified truck traffic problems to the areas and the signage. Is any of that signage going to be on with the street signs?
That'll be a different project than with the street signs, but yes, that's one thing that we still have to do, so.
Okay, I didn't know if you could add that into it or not. So.
How are the signs doing over on Mill Street? I noticed where that new sidewalk is located. It looks like one of the signs have been bent or turned or torn down. So are we having problems? I know that the trucks that come in there have definitely lost some area where they have availability to turn around and such, but I've noticed that street is having some issues. Tire tracks.
Okay. Where is that at again, Brandy, please?
Over by the mill area, the paper mill, across from the food production plant, that new sidewalk area.
Okay.
Well,
Okay,
if
well,
you, yeah, as you walk to Tim's point with the old poles as we walk around,
Yeah.
I stopped counting at like a dozen signs throughout the village on just my walking route that are turned sideways because they're everywhere because of those old round poles that they sit on. So.
Yep. So I've made a note of that, and we'll look at that too also, Brandy. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody have anything else for gold?
No.
Okay. We'll go to reports. Terry, go ahead.
I'm going to, I would like to talk during new business about snow and ice issues. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, let the chief go ahead of me, and then I would like to follow up under new business of snow and ice.
Okay.
Thanks, Terry. We had a cruiser that had an issue with some equipment that we had to get repaired. It was emergency equipment. One of the sirens froze, and somehow it affected the actual horn inside of it, so it would turn on, but you couldn't hear it. So we had to get that replaced. We have 2 new auxiliary officers that are both in training. They were both in today. One was working with Dylan Clark. We like to have them do a minimum of 40 hours in the schools so that they, if they do have to be called in to cover a day or something, that they know how that works. The other is working 3 days a week with the deputy chief, and he's on a fast track so that we could get his minimum standard hours in, which are 120. Once we do that, then we reevaluate and see what else he may need as far as training, and we tack that on to that. So we're evaluating some equipment down here. We're looking at different things down here that we have as far as things that we're in our timeline of where probably by next year we're going to have to do some replacements on a couple things. We had the sink in the bathroom that we had to repair. The pipe, all that was put in on, I have no idea how long ago, but it basically just rusted off. And one of the officers was able to repair that, so that didn't cost us anything on that. Other than that, we've been trying to be visible. Of course, we have to be cautious, just like everybody else with this snow and ice. And on a good side, we have not had any uptick in accidents, whatever. We did have quite a few cars that were stuck in driveways, stuck in alleys, whatever, that we helped to push out. But other than that, we've started a new training regiment. Everyone has a little book, or in a book they have to keep track of what's their mandated training. And that's helping us out quite a bit also. And I think that's all I have for right now.
Okay. Does anybody got any questions for the chief? All right. Thanks, chief. Nothing on the old business. So we're going right to new business. Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Hankinson. As you know, we've had an exceptional, crazy winter. The whole winter came within 2 weeks. So it's been a challenge for staff. We, like many entities around us, are totally out of salt. Tim used his last salt on Friday at the main intersections. During this crazy period of time, Tim and his team has been making a list of the areas of streets that are hard to get down to plow. So if you look at your paperwork that says 452.18, parking during a heavy snowfall, and Tim, you can come in, you can chime in at any time. There were 5 areas that Tim has asked to be placed in this 45218 in addition to the areas that are already there. Maple Street between High and Basel, North Walnut between Mulberry and West Market, Creek View, and Tim's suggestion is we park only on one side, West Cliff Street, and we'll talk about that, and North Clark between East and Mulberry. Tim, do you have anything that you would add to any of these 5 areas that you and your team identified?
No, I mean, any of those streets, if we had parking on one side, would be tremendous. Because when they park on both sides, our plows are 10-foot wide, and even having them angled, and you're probably only taking an 8-foot swath, you're barely squeezing through, and you're just looking to take somebody's mirror off or tear somebody's car up. So that's what we were hoping for, was to get that taken care of. So it's pretty much what we're after.
Those five streets, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To go along with that, Chapter 1048 in our ordinances talks about snow removal. And one of the things that Tim pointed out to me, and I tried to do a lot of research on it, spent a lot of time on it, and so did Jeff. We looked at, there is a thing called the Village of Baltimore Snow Removal Policy, and you have that in your packet. This was, I believe, Tim, you said this was in place when you came to work at the village?
Yes.
So at some time or other, this was probably either approved, we couldn't find the ordinance or the resolution. Jeff suggested it may have been done through administrative motion. So I guess what I'm saying to you is that when you have so much snow like we have, and there is just no place to put it. And I think that I feel for the residents. I understand what they're saying. But I think we should have some guidelines that everybody's on the same page. And I wanted to post these this winter, but I didn't post them because, again, I couldn't find the authority behind the piece of paper. That's why going forward, I've asked Barb to put footers for anything we do at the bottom of the paper so we can see documents, so we can see when it was approved and how it was approved. I don't need anything from committee tonight, but probably at the next safety committee, I will ask for input after you have time to review these. Jeff has suggested that if we do anything that we amend 452.18 with the streets that Tim just suggested, and that we also just add the snow policy, our snow removal policy to Chapter 1048 of our codified ordinances. So I do not believe that anything's been done with the snow policy. The newest I could find was in 1985. So it's been a long time since we've even looked at our snow policy or changed it in any way. I think it's critical and important because one of the things that I have told Tim, you know, safety is our number one, and he has a crew that he's responsible for also. We have one street, and that's on West Cliff Street. The trouble with, and I don't know, Tim, maybe you should just explain a little bit the scenario of when you get heavy full snowfall and the issue you have with that street.
Okay, well, it started out, I'll just back up a little bit, Terry, that I didn't realize that was even a street. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, there's an alley that runs between Walnut Street and Mill Street and runs up across Mulberry. Does everybody know where that's at? I suppose there's some heads nodding, but anyway, it goes to the north, and then it turns right at a barn. There's a barn right on the very corner. If you don't make the turn, you're going down the creek, down in front of Creative Foods. But anyway, I guess as you make that right-hand turn, that is West Cliff Street. And I know Terry got a complaint about it. it's very hard for us to get in there with the dump truck. Very, very hard. And it's not very safe. The last time I plowed it, I went from west to east and I shoved it off in whoever's grass. And if I tore up somebody's grass, that's how it is. And I have to back out. And then if I'm going to salt it, I got to turn around and back in and then salt it on the way out. Their vehicles are very close. Once again, it's just like going down Walnut Street there between Mulberry and Market. You have no room. It's very hard. So that street there is not very safe to try to plow. Not with what equipment we have, I should say anyway.
Right. And the issue isn't so much that we have Tim's experience and he understands that, but we always try to prepare for example, if Tim is not in that day and somebody else has to drive that, you know, if you don't know how steep that cliff is off of that area, you probably need to take a look at it because that's a deep dive once you go off of there. So there are a lot of what I want to call not so safe areas. This is a part of this with these alleys. When a street is an alley is a street, it becomes kind of gray. I guess I'm not asking for any action. I'm just asking for awareness so that when any of you do get the complaints about the snow, that you understand there are just some areas in the village that are hard to clean. And when I did ask a person where they would like us to put the snow, they said in my neighbor's yard. So I think they even recognize the fact there's no place to put it. We can't push it over the edge. So I think it's important that you understand. Again, Tim's going to take care of himself. He's going to take care of his team. So and we're going to do it in the best safe manner.
So I'm looking at the map where you're at, Tim, and you're talking the little bit of roadway that would be west of Walnut Street, where it then curves down to come to Mill. That is technically part of Cliff Street.
Well, so we're told.
Portion.
I don't know.
So we're told.
That's what a resident says. I don't know. I always consider
it looks like an alley on the satellite map.
I believe it as far as its dimensions, I would call it an alley also.
I mean, it looks like, because there's a house right there on the corner of Walnut and Cliff, and it literally, at least from the satellite map I'm looking at, looks like one of the, like we have over in other areas where people have driven to get into the back of their yards. It looks like they drove down to get into a driveway there, and then they kept just driving down next to the other homes and made their own roadway.
So you can see the building on the very corner then.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, take a ride with me in a dump truck to plow on and see how tight that is.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And second thing, just going back to 452.18, when we amend it, I think we should add on there that it's not just in the mayor's discretion to declare an emergency. Let's just make it clear cut if the county declares a snow emergency. Because that way it's clear, that way me or any other future mayor doesn't have to make that decision, and it's clear to the residents, you know, did the mayor do this? If we're in a snow emergency, and that's how signs are already, you know, typically we can order no parking during snow emergency stuff. So we can clarify that and make it a little more clear there as well.
But what level would that be, Mayor? I'll just ask that question because there's 3 levels. So if the county says a level 1, then is that where we're at?
I think the level 1, I mean, it's a level 1 snow emergency. So, and the street parking signs, when you go into Columbus and Westerville and Lancaster, they say no parking during snow emergency. So, you know, I would say it's a level 1, unless anybody else has a different thought on it.
I surely don't.
Sounds good to me.
You good with that, Chief?
I'm just trying to run that through my head for a minute. So the level, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and it's been a very long day, but level 1 is the first call, and then as it gets progressively worse, then it's level 2 and level 3, correct?
Right.
Okay. So level one, basically all they're saying is that the streets are hazardous and use caution, whatever it may be. I don't know that a level one constitutes an emergency. I would be curious. I'd be curious on how that's defined, maybe in some other municipalities. The only reason I say
Good
that
point.
is because the sheriff's department, and they err on the side of safety, but there's been many times that they've called, hey, this is a level one snow emergency, and quite obviously there's just we don't get the snow or we don't get whatever. So that's the only thing that I would be curious about is exactly what that definition is generically. And I think probably we've got two really good resources here locally, which would be Pickerington and Lancaster, on at what point do they declare that. Is it an automatic? And I think as long as, here's my concern. My concern is we go, okay, it's level one snow emergency and get your cars off the street. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to tow a whole bunch of cars because people are not going to get their cars off the street. So we do that, and then somebody comes back and challenges whether or not it was a quote unquote emergency. I'd just like to have something, I guess, in our pocket that says this is generally accepted, whatever the term would be. But again, I've seen so many times that it's like, going into the evening hours and we're going to do a level one, and by morning there's not a thing on the street.
Okay. So we can, because we'll have 3 readings and more discussion, we'll add it, and we can do that additional research to see if we should say if the county declares a level 1 or level 2 when it goes into effect. Okay.
Would you like me to look into that, Mayor?
If you wouldn't mind. And
Sure, I
be a
can make a
quick call
couple
to,
calls tomorrow.
yeah.
Yep, and I'll get that to Terry.
So Tim, what's your experience when you know that it's a level 1 out? Are you out plowing?
And I'll side with Mike there a little bit. Sometimes, I'd say more times than not, but sometimes he's right. That does happen.
That's a good point.
Okay. So you're gonna bring more information to us there the next meeting?
Right, I'll probably go ahead and have the ordinances ready. And the chief will have his input, his research, and then to the mayor's point, we can definitely go 3 readings. I mean, I believe that winter is over with. If anybody wants to take buy a lottery ticket on that. Tim?
Okay.
So,
We hope
yeah.
it's,
Yeah, I'm ready.
okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Hankinson. Tim, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
So looking
ahead.
at like Old Town Pickerington, how do they handle that? Because some of their streets are also kind of quirky in terms of the hills and being very narrow. Do they have signs for, I know we have a couple here in town, but how does Pickerington handle that? Does anybody know? Is it a blanket, like any snow emergency, please move your cars? Or is it like a level 1, level 2, level 3?
I think that's what we're waiting on the chief to find out,
Okay.
how they do it. And I guess that's a good question, Chief, is do they treat Old Town Pickerington, which is a little more narrow streets, do they treat it differently than the rest of Pickerington as you get further up into the more commercial areas, Refugee Road area and stuff like that?
Yeah, and that's something that what I'll do is I'll ask both of them just to fax me over a copy of their snow emergency policy, and then that should tell us a lot. I can only relate back to, for example, Westerville. If you've ever been to Westerville, They have what's called Old Westerville, which is right around the campus. Very narrow streets, and they're all brick. And again, a different dynamic. But whereas the big trucks were used in the outlying areas and the planned subdivisions, the ones that were plowed on the old area were probably, and Tim would probably have a better idea than me, but a 6-foot blade, I think, on the front of a pickup, 4-wheel drive pickup truck. So
That would be
they
a, that
actually
would be a
had
7, Mike,
equipment.
probably, but
7, okay. And they actually had equipment that was designed or kept in use just for those narrow streets. But again, you know, it's a cost factor thing, and so the big trucks never went down any of those streets. Plus, they were concerned about them chunking up the bricks.
Okay.
I'll say,
question.
Terry, I'll say one more thing. When we go to put
Sure.
salt down and you got cars on both sides of the street, I mean, and you're barely fitting through, you know, you got to be so careful because you're just plastering people's cars. And like on North Walnut Street, I counted the other day, there was 6 cars on the west side of the road. There's one house, oh, excuse me, 2 houses, one's on the corner on the west side of the road, because the church takes up the rest of that. There's 6 cars there all jammed up. 2 of them haven't moved in months. And it's pretty tedious to try to get through there.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on the snow removal?
I have a
You guys
question.
did a good job this year, though.
They did a great job. So Mayor, do I need a motion about the street signs? I mean, it's 13,000, or can I just go ahead and do them without a motion?
It doesn't hurt to have a motion from safety to go ahead and do it. I think it's within the budget and the stuff that we need to do as part of streets anyway for safety, but it doesn't hurt.
So you want a motion to replace the street signs?
Please. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Hankin.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it, Terry.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Let's see. Hankinson,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we're looking
Wait,
for 'em.
Yeah, hold on. Brandy, were you about to, did we talk over you, Brandy? Were you about to ask another question on something?
Nope, thanks though.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything for new business? Okay. 7:16. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Our next one is March 22nd,
7:16.
right after service.
All
Hey,
right.
Tim, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, guys.
Tim.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice evening.
I will.
Everyone, I'm gonna-